Nope, I haven't been cut off because of my criticism. On the contrary, boxes kept coming in and I simply just didn't have enough time to catch up. But as you can see here, stuff was piling up and it's about time to resume building fanhome's KITT.
And today we're really getting down to business, because in this mega build video I summarized sections 55 to 80, so a whopping 26 sections in a row. These essentially include parts of the interior and the exterior chassis as well. But I shall not hide that once again there's some quality issues, and once more I wonder about the chaotic build procedures. But let's have the back wall of the dashboard finished first, which I began already in build stages 47 to 54. Following this is 10 construction stages, dealing mostly with the front and rear seats to be assembled. The seats are made of rubber material, which is to be filled with a foam padding. I had to reflect briefly when it came to the mounting rail of the front seats. In my opinion, it could have been depicted just a bit better in the instructions which side is front and rear facing. But putting it in place twice, one way wrong and one way right, can also be an option to progress. And as already mentioned several times, it is undisputed that the construction phases have been unnecessarily stretched out. The individual parts of the seats are distributed over a total of 10 sections. In my opinion, 5 or 6 issues would have been more than enough to deliver all the parts. The PMD seats are at least true to the originals, even including the small PMD logos, which are best mounted to the seats by the help of some tweezers. However, here's another inaccuracy with the side trim panels of the PMD seats. These should actually be finished in tan instead of black color. In addition to that, the paneling on the driver's side would need to have a different look, because KITT featured an electrically adjustable PMD seat on the driver's side. However, the one we built for this model here is a manual adjustable seat. Last but not least, the dashboard will finally be attached to the base plate, and so will be the firewall which goes to the back side of the dashboard. It should be noted though that various cables need to be fed through that tiny opening here. It's advisable to start wiring the cables up front and affixate the firewall only in a second step. This makes things a lot easier. The base plate is then screwed to the base frame. Don't forget to connect all cables to the controller again before they'll be hidden away using the trunk cover pieces. This construction phase provides us already with the center part of the exterior chassis, even though we're going to need it only a few steps later on. First, the doors need to be assembled. They look mostly okay, at least until you get to that point where you have to stick this crumbled piece of fabric to the door panel. Firstly, this fabric is too short, and secondly, it was cut the wrong way round. And even after I had done everything possible to stretch it into position, it just looks awfully bad once glued on. And the lower part of the door panel features a similarly whimsy scrap of fabric. Although this one at least is cut correctly, it doesn't really make me overly excited about it. A cool feature is that mechanism to wind the windows up and down. It doesn't seem to be that solid, but it works. But I definitely recommend putting a bit of grease on the gears to reduce unnecessary friction and wear. The second door panel makes me feel like a total fool. Here again, the fabric sticker for the upper part is just a tragedy. And believe it or not, the scrap of fabric is cut the wrong way round again. If I had noticed this earlier, I could have simply exchanged these two stickers and would have had the correct one for the other door panel and vice versa. The quality control at fanhome definitely screwed up here. Finally, I'll have to fit as well the cables with the door contact switches to complete this construction phase. In the next construction phase, the hood finally comes into play again, even if it doesn't really make any sense. You remember, at the very beginning you built the hood with just one hydraulic lifter and then lay it to rest for an overall 74 construction phases. And now, out of the blue, we'll be installing the second hydraulic lifter, only to leave the hood laying around again for a while. At least, for me, this is the opportunity to take the hood from the early construction phase and reassemble it again. My original hood had some air bubbles in the paint, hence I received a replacement from Fanhome. And so now I'm remounting all these various small parts to this second hood once more. Let's move on to the bodywork of the exterior chassis, where I have to fit the windshield first. Then I extend the frame to the front. And to anyone expecting, we'll be going to mount the hood now. Wrong. No, instead, these small windshield wipers will find their place before I get into assembling the pop-up headlights. These will also include a gear rod to which the servo motor will be coupled. The headlights are winding up via the servo motor, and two springs ensure that they retract back again when switched off. It works, but in overall I have the impression that the mechanism is just a little bit wobbly. I'm concerned that the headlights will not fully retract and stay halfway open. It's also worth mentioning that the top cover of the headlights is not made from metal, but of plain plastic. That's too bad for the optics.
This thing is massive. You can definitely see where the journey is going to, and it has become a real heavyweight. In the meantime, I arrived at stage 80, and I totally don't get why you start at stage 1 with the Cowl Induction hood, which to this point is still not mounted here. And I totally don't get why the cover of these pop-up headlights is made from plastics and not from metal as well. I like the idea that you can retract the windows, but the mechanism is a little bit of bad quality. Also here for the door panels the quality is awful. It's of mediocre quality, and as you can see here, even the L-shaped trim panel, which is black, should actually be in chrome. It's a nice idea to have these miniaturized seat belts, but it was not totally original, because except maybe for the pilot episode where you saw KITT with racing seat belts, you never saw the factory default seat belts. Nevertheless, here we have the opening where one seatbelt guide is supposed to be mounted. Now this is really an annoyance, and this totally upsets me, because you always start some small thing and never complete it, and I totally don't get it why we were missing now these seatbelt guides. You could easily have them included, fixated here, and the seats were done. So now we have to wait for I don't know how many episodes to come until these seats are completed. Also, I'm pretty sure that this trim panel here is supposed to be in tan color and not black. Now, I did everything up and until the build stage is 80. I have 2 more, but I'm gonna wait for the next ones to arrive, as I'm sort of starting something new that will be working here on the front and on the rear end of the fender. I can only repeat what I said at earlier occasions already. The quality sometimes is really worse and could have been done better. Anyways, I'm looking forward to continuing the journey for building KITT by Fanhome. Hope to see you again. Have a good time and see you around.
Next time on Night Industries. As a Knight Rider fan, my heart is bleeding because of the various flaws. Luckily, there's Mike Lane providing stunning mods to upgrade your Fanhome KITT experience.